We got some uncomfortable TikToks to go through. Every single one, I'm sure I'll be annoyed at. Let's do it. Okay, so I have a feeling I know where this is going. We're gonna do some blacking out of the belly button. I have a lot of my belly button blacked out, not the whole thing, but God, is it awful. It feels like someone's poking your butthole from the inside. It is miserable. Yeah, I mean, that's a way to black out a belly button. Just put some ink in there and just go to town. I've personally tried this and I did not like it that much. I felt like I couldn't actually see. I mean, obviously, you can't see where the black's going. It wasn't that helpful for me, but man, does it make a good video. I'm gonna guess that he probably cleaned out that belly button and then had to dip his tattoo machine in ink again. Because yeah, it's really difficult to pull that off unless you have like, yeah, see, you can see it wasn't perfect. You had to go through and do it again. I like when people black out belly buttons, mostly because I think it like, I've done a few where I'm like, oh, you can kind of see, it doesn't like look complete. It looks like there's like a little bullseye in the middle of the tattoo, whatever it is. But also I don't think hers was that big of a deal. Like it looks like it was a healed tattoo and it was bothering her. Maybe it looked like a third eye, so she wanted to black it out. But it's a move, a painful move, but it's something to do. Okay, sure. I love when experts talk about tattoos. I don't know this person. Maybe he is an expert. Let's hear it.
Not sure what to get for your first tattoo? Here are 3 easy options. Number 1, something that represents where you're from. I grew up in LA, so this palm tree reminds me of the place that I call home.
Okay, get something that reminds you of where you're from. Is it an easy tattoo? Yeah. I don't have anything to say about that, but I also, I don't know, boring, I guess. Look, I get it. For the average person, you're gonna get tattooed and it's a hard process to like get into your first tattoos. So your first tattoos are probably gonna be something boring like a palm tree that represent where you're from. And I have no problem with people who like, I would love a little like LA or California tattoo, it's fine. But if you're gonna ask me honestly what a good idea for your first tattoo is, it might not be helpful to the vast majority, but a couple people are gonna choose this type of thing. Pick something that's cool. I know. You don't have to have meaning. You don't have to have it represent anything. Just pick something that is aesthetically pleasing to your eye. And whether that is a palm tree, perfect. Or if that's like a giant blacked out arm, go for it. If it's like a panther in the center of your chest, do that. Do what you think looks cool more than like trying to represent, trying to have meaning. Tattoos don't need meanings. And it's an easy way to go. And his advice on that one, not bad at all, not wrong. I just find it boring. You don't need to baby-step your first tattoo. Get something cool, and that's it. Let's hear the rest of what he's got to say.
For me, both of my parents and my brother are the year of the horse in the Chinese zodiac. So these horses keep them close to me at all times.
See, I think that's a perfect example. He got a cool image, and then he probably put some meaning on it. Or he found someone who does like cool horses, and he's like, oh, that could represent. Just get the cool thing. And like, if you want to insert some meaning on it, that's fine. And like, I know this might not be the most popular opinion. A lot of you feel like you have to have meaning behind every tattoo, or a lot of you do have meanings in your tattoos, but I don't think it is a must. And I think that like the more people saying you don't have to have meaning on a tattoo, the better off we're gonna be. Because the most meaningful tattoos are typically the ones that look the most like shit. Now, it just is. Usually people aren't picking 3 horses. Usually people are picking 3 horses plus their mom's Lily and their mom's name and their brother's birth date and their dad's favorite movie all into one tattoo, and it ends up looking like crap. That's what most people are doing when they're trying to represent all their family. I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm just saying they don't need to have meaning always.
If you have a sibling or some friends who you can convince to get matching tattoos with, that can be a great way to get your first ink.
Okay, yes, that's also okay advice. It's also really bad advice. Look, everything is good, everything's bad, whatever. The reality is that a lot of times I tattoo people who get matching tattoos with good friends. I do. I work in a vacation town where people get matching tattoos constantly, like probably more than any regular tattoo shop. Matching tattoos are really popular with travel buddies or whatever. A lot of the times people get matching tattoos with people they're no longer friends with. Or they get matching tattoos that they don't really like. And the reason is like 10 of you are trying to figure out one design you like. You're bound to have a couple people who aren't that interested in the tattoo, but they want to get tattooed with their friends. For the average person, if they got tons of tattoos, doesn't matter. Just get a mediocre tattoo and it's more about the meaning. But if it's your first tattoo and your first tattoo is one that you don't really like that much and maybe you're not friends with the person who you were friends with and now you have these matching, it is a recipe for disaster. Now, I don't completely disagree with this guy. A lot of what he said, fine. Do I disagree with him a little bit? Sure. But, you know, it is a good way to get tattooed. I don't know. I just always find these things to be cookie cutter, I guess. Like, I guess that's the most cookie cutter information about your first tattoo as possible. And maybe you might be like sitting here being like, oh, your advice isn't much better. Perfect. Let's move on. Whew. Nipple tats. My nipple is not tattooed for good reason. I didn't want to. In this design, I think you could have done it. You could also left it out. I'm not a huge fan of the blacked out nipple. And that's, I mean, obviously I just said I am a fan of blacking out belly buttons. I have no idea why. I guess maybe nipples are so important. If you made me draw a person's chest, I'm gonna definitely put the nipples where I might not put a belly button, but maybe I would, I don't know. And when they black them out and you can't see them, I'm always like, okay, it's fine. Don't hate on it, not hating on everything, but like, it's a choice. And a choice I definitely didn't go for because I like looking at my nipples, I guess. Yeah, that's the major takeaway here. Kirk loves looking at his own nipples. Yeah, let's go.
Gold pig and pig is upside down. 贱女. 贱 is a really bad word. It means cheap. Well, this one kind of makes sense. 穷 poor. I am. 这是纹身. This is a tattoo. Who would do this to themselves? Seriously.
So clearly this is all about getting Chinese words tattooed on you. I wouldn't recommend getting anything tattooed on you that you don't fully understand. Mostly because you don't know what it means. And you don't even know if it's right. And it's just a mistake waiting to happen. Very few people are like, wow, I really love my Chinese lettering. Some people who know how to speak Chinese are probably like, I love my Chinese. Perfect. As a tattooer, I accept zero responsibility for words that are misspelled or incorrect if they're in a different language. Every time someone comes to me and they bring me something and they're like, this is what this means, I tell them honestly. I have zero clue what that means and I can't really Google it to find out like context. You might think that language works exactly the same as it does in English, but it doesn't. Things that you think make sense in English aren't gonna make sense in Spanish or Chinese or Portuguese. That's not how language works. And when people bring me Greek and I'm like, I don't know what this means. And they're like, well, can you find out? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. And I can maybe Google something, but like someone who is fluent in that language is gonna be like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but it's still really dumb. So like when you're getting a different language, unless you speak that language, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't. But yeah, okay, I've done this one before. This one actually does drive me crazy with tattoo meanings. I haven't seen this one yet. Let's find out what these 5 tattoos are.
Here are 5 tattoos you didn't know the actual meaning of. First up, we got the moth. This symbolizes transformation and always searching for the light in the dark. And I have that one.
Nope. Okay, this is my major takeaway with videos like this. This is my best advice. Almost nothing actually has real meaning accepted by a large amount of people, except for the bad ones. Don't get the bad ones tattooed. You'll easily find out what those are. The rest of these, I mean, we're gonna go through it. We're gonna go through it fast. We're gonna listen to her. I'm probably just gonna nod my head no.
The butterfly, a lot of people just get butterflies, but the real meaning behind it is somebody has battled with self-harm.
That's not the real meaning. Drives me crazy. Butterflies have been popular for hundreds of years. That's not a real meaning.
Then we got the La Lorena. If somebody has this, they most likely got cheated on. The Nita is an acknowledgement for anybody and all who have an eating disorder. And then the fire rose, not this one, that one. usually means that somebody has gone through domestic violence. Now you have to remember that a lot of people get ink into their bodies permanently without doing any research, so if you see these on somebody, you can't automatically assume what it means for each individual person, but if you...
See, that's a disclaimer. It's a disclaimer for you that she's wrong. She's like, if I'm actually wrong about these things, don't assume. That's not what it means. It's what some person said it means to them, or maybe whatever, but that's not the actual meaning of any of these tattoos. None of those tattoos mean anything except for maybe the symbol. I'm not familiar with that symbol. That could be a symbol that is used by that organization and only used by that organization or whatever. I don't know what it is. But I could easily be like, anyone who has a house tattooed on them is for people who want to be astronauts. And astronauts get this tattoo because they're missing home. That's the true meaning of house tattoos. And it's just garbage. It makes probably a pretty good video. Someone's gonna watch it and be like, oh, that's what that house meant on that guy's arm. I don't know. No, it doesn't. Nothing means anything unless it means something. Okay, another one about meanings. Let's listen to this one. I think I remember it and being like, yeah, that's pretty spot on.
Having done prison time and knowing a little bit about gangs, it absolutely blows my mind that tattoo shops will do $13 13 tattoos on Friday the 13th.
Okay, this is a perfect example of a tattoo that actually does have meaning, but the tattoo also has a different meaning in certain places. Okay, you want to go to prison? You want to go to El Salvador? I wouldn't recommend having a 13 tattooed on you. I wouldn't. It represents something that I wouldn't want to be a part of. But you go to a college campus and it just means that you like to party and you like to get dumb tattoos on Friday the 13th. So, does the tattoo have real meaning in some places? Absolutely. Does it have a different meaning in other places? Yep. And this one represents exactly what I was talking about really well. Some people might find it a sign of something you don't want to be a part of, and others don't. Okay, keep moving.
Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand that your innocent Kyle and Becky don't understand the sinister significance of this tattoo, because they've more than likely never been to prison like my dumb ass. Nevertheless, showing up to prison or even just wandering into the wrong neighborhood with a 13 tattoo could put you in danger from this gang or their ops. Not to mention that if you show up at a prison with this tattoo, the prison administration is automatically going to assume that you are a part of this gang and they are going to classify your custody as such. And before you go and make a decision about getting a 13 tattoo, you should be aware that they have not only the numerics, but the Roman numerals locked down too. Showing up to prison with one of these tattoos, there's the distinct possibility that they are going to forcibly remove it off of your body. Now, if they're in a good mood and you're respectful about it, they might just cover it up with a giant black blotch on your body forever. The alternative would be to carve it off of your body against your will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works in prison, but I don't necessarily want a 13 walking into some, especially in Southern California or in other places. But, you know, there are probably more people with the party tat 13 than have the, you know, gang-related 13 at this point. So, you know, maybe get a 13, maybe don't, depending on what you're doing. You know, who knows?
This one I got while I was in jail or prison. This is the first one I ever got, and it was in the jail. Somebody had used a staple and ink made from a burnt chess piece, and it was just an outline. And then when I got to the receiving prison, someone there filled it in, all the little dots, but obviously didn't do a great job. This is the second one I ever got, because when I got to prison, everybody had tattoos, and I thought I should have more tattoos, but I wanted to design it. I wanted to have a say in the process, and I didn't know how to draw, so I drew up this whole tribal piece, and he added bit by bit by bit. And I would go into his cell, and he would tattoo, and then one night we actually switched cells so we could tattoo overnight. So his cell partner went into my cell, and we worked for like 8 hours straight, and that was horrible. Then I got this one, which is of the monk who set himself on fire in protest of the Vietnam War. This is supposed to be him right here. It's also seen in the cover of one of the Rage Against the Machine albums. It obviously isn't, you know, picture ready, but it was the best we could do inside with just tattoo ink and a guitar spring.
That is a bad tattoo, my friend. I don't know for sure, but it looks like someone hid some words in there, in those flames. I don't know if it does say anything, but something looks like a word in there. I don't know what it is. But yeah, if you're getting tattooed in prison, keep it to the simple stuff. Don't try and get the monk setting himself on fire. That's a crazy idea to get tattooed on you, especially while you're in prison, because it ain't gonna look good. It ain't gonna look good outside of prison. So it's definitely not gonna look good inside of prison. Okay.
You know you're in good hands with your tattoo artist when they can use a 3-round liner and make it as thick as like a 9 up top and then taper it out to like a 1. Not to mention a solid line and then tracing it back up. Oh, so
Okay. As a tattooer, as someone who is constantly looking for videos on tattooing to talk about, it blows my mind the amount of people who talk about tattooing who probably shouldn't. Let's talk about the actual application of tattooing. If you're making a 3-round liner look like a 9-round liner, you're f***ing up. Like, that does not look like a 3 unless he sculpted the line, which means he kind of like did multiple lines and then filled it in. If you have a 3 and it looks like a 9, that means you're blowing that crap out, way out. I mean, like in an impossible kind of way, especially when it's fresh. If a 3 looks like a 9, he's not a good tattooer. A 3 should look like a 3. Unless it's a tight 3, then it should look like a tight 3. Like I hear these videos so often and you know, like, hey, good on you. I'm not insulting the people for making videos. Make videos, I don't care. But in my videos, I'm gonna talk about why they're wrong about that sometimes because they're giving you bad information. And if you're a future tattooer and you're like, okay, this guy said in this video that if I make a 3 look like a 9, I'm doing a good job. You're going to be doing awful things. I can make a 3 look like a 9, but man, you don't want to see it because the amount of damage I'm doing to that person's arm is awful. And it's not because I'm not a good tattooer, it's because that's what it would require. If you want to make a 3 look like a 9, you're like, wow, hidden bone, baby. And you can do it, but you don't want to. You know, I'm sure that he's probably using his platform to teach people how to tattoo too. You see it all the time, like using fake skin, teaching people how to tattoo who shouldn't be who should never be tattooing. It's like a really common thing on these platforms. I always get worried. I always get like, oh, scared for the kids who are trying to learn how to tattoo and they're using advice from TikTok because it's just not good. It's just not. I think the person who's doing the tattoo is probably an okay tattooer. I have no idea. Can't tell from this clip. Their lines look good enough for a 3. That's fine. But they're sculpting these lines, and sculpting lines is completely different than like laying in the first line. So if you like this video, found it helpful, if you learned something about something or other, whatever, like, subscribe. I'll see you in a few days.